As said by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that there are 7 destructive sins. And if a Muslim commits any of these 7 destructive sins, then he will be no longer a Muslim, he will be a kafir. And among those 7 destructive sins, one is black magic. If any person is practicing black magic, or if any person goes to a black magician, then he becomes a kafir, he becomes a disbeliever, and he has to renew his iman. These black magicians in our society appear to us as saints, as sheikhs, as peers, and many times they claim to be someone who has closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So identification number 1 is, if he asks you your name and your mom's name, your name and your mother's name, then he is a black magician. Because in the field of exorcism, in the field of ruqya, there is no need to ask names. There is no need at all to ask names. Because you recite Quran, and if jinn is possessed, then he comes out speaking. And you talk to him, you deal with him. And if he takes a sweaty garment from you, and he says that he's gonna cure you through the sweaty garment, then he is a magician. For example, if he asks you to get your hat, or your underwear, or socks, or any kind of cloth on which your sweat is caught, or someone else's sweat is caught, in that case he is a black magician. And if he asks you to get a specific kind of animal, a specific kind of animal with certain features, with certain specifications, then he is a black magician. For example, if he asks you to get black crow, black sheep, or ram, then he is a black magician. And he will ask you to put the carcass or the dead body of the animal at a place where people don't usually pass by. And that is where the jinns come and consume the animal. And if he writes incantations, ta'weez, or amulets, then he is a magician. For example, he writes to you a ta'weez and tells you to wear it, and he tells that if you do not wear it, then you're gonna be in the trouble, then he's a magician. And if he recites unclear incantations, then he is a magician. For example, he says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. He recites something which is unclear. Or sometimes they say, Bismillahi wa bi Rasulihi wa bi Jibril wa bi Mikal wa bi Israfil wa bi Sarsarubi wa bi Sahsarubi wa bi Shamsarubi. So these kinds of unclear incantations, then he is a magician. And if he gives you a piece of paper, especially which contains squares within which letters or figures are written, if he gives you these kinds of incantations on which you find squares and lines and pentagon, hexagon, and all the symbols, and he writes something in it, then he is a magician. And if he instructs you to be in a dark room for a certain period of time and do not talk to people for this certain period of time, then he is a magician. For example, he may tell you not to talk to people and be in the dark room for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 11 days, 15 days, 21 days. And if he asks you to do certain kind of rituals in the dark room, then he is a magician. In the same way, if he instructs you to not to touch water for a certain period of time, then he is a magician. And if he gives you something to bury in the ground, then he is a magician. For example, he may give you a piece of paper and tells you, okay, take this and burn it in front of your gate. Or take this bag and burn it somewhere where people don't usually pass by. And if they give you something and if he gives you something and tells you to bury it in front of your neighbor's house or your relative's house, then he is a magician. In the same way, if he gives you pieces of paper and asks you to burn it, and burn it in the morning or in the evening, then he is a magician. And if he murmurs unclear words, then he is a magician. He may say, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, alhaakumut takasur," and he recites something, and he rises again, and he goes back, and he rises again, then he is a magician. If he murmurs unclear words, then he is a magician. And if he informs you your name, your town's name, and the purpose of the visit, then he is a magician. If he claims that he knows unseen, then he is a magician, because no one knows unseen except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he claims to know the unseen, then he is a magician. So these people take the help of the jinn to know the unseen, and if they inform you the purpose of the visit, the number of rooms in your house, and the relatives in your house, your family members, and everything, then he is a magician. He is not a Muslim.